I used to work at a gas station. This was about 20 years ago now. I worked there for maybe a year and never really liked it that much. That's because for most of the time that I worked there, I would be working overnight shifts. The small convenience store that was part of the gas station was open 24/7, and when I worked, I would be all by myself overnight. There was no need for any other employees because we hardly got any customers in the store overnight. The location of the gas station was slightly rural. Some cars would always come in and get gas here and there, but not many people would come inside. I guess that made the job easy for most of the time. But still, sometimes things were lonely and somewhat creepy. I mean, I was all by myself in the middle of the night, and sometimes sketchy characters would come in. But through all that, I was able to continue my job. That is, until one night, when the experience I had broke the last straw for me and caused me to quit. It happened one Friday night as I worked an overnight shift. It was about 11 o'clock. I hadn't had any customers in the store for quite some time. From where I was behind the counter, I could see out to the 4 gas pumps that we had. They sat vacant. Even the road next to the gas station was very quiet. Then I saw headlights in the distance. Soon, the vehicle slowed down and then entered the gas station. It was a larger, white SUV. Looking back, I believe it to be a 1996 Chevy Suburban. It drove around slowly and then parked at one of the gas pumps. The way that it was parked was so that it was facing directly away from me and I could see the back window. I didn't think much of it and just assumed it to be another customer filling their tank. I just sat behind the counter. But after a few minutes, I did notice that nobody had gotten out of the vehicle yet. Normally, somebody would have gotten out by now and gotten the gas, or walked inside the store. But whoever was driving the truck was still inside of it. A little bit strange, but still wasn't a big deal. Now, I wasn't just staring at them the whole time, but I could clearly see them from out the big window in the gas station, and I didn't really have anything else to do either. So at least 30 minutes passed, and still nobody had gotten out of the car. Now this was really weird. In the meantime, I did notice one other car came and got gas at another pump, and then it left. Then it was back to just me and the SUV at the pump. After several more minutes, I got up to get something to drink, and then I returned to my spot behind the counter. When I did, I realized that I could now see somebody in the back of the SUV. The rear window was tinted, but I could tell that somebody was looking out of it. Their face was so close that I could see them. It was a man, and I remember that he was looking right at me with these wide eyes. I didn't know if he was the one who had been driving the SUV or not, but still, no one had gotten out of it. I looked at him for about a minute, and he stared at me the entire time. I was so creeped out by it. I remember that I looked away and tried to distract myself with other things for a while. But this was so bizarre that I kept looking back to the car to see if the guy was still looking, and every time that I looked back, he was. He stayed there, staring at me out the back, barely moving for almost an hour. I really couldn't believe that it went on for so long. Remembering back now, I'm not exactly sure why, but I decided to get up and go outside. Maybe I was just curious. I don't really think I had intentions of talking to whoever this person was. But I got up from behind the counter and walked over to the door. Then I left the store and walked out to the small sidewalk that we had in the front. The man was still staring at me from the back of the car, but now he was probably 50 feet away. I took a couple of steps into the parking lot in front of the gas pumps. At that point, the man finally moved. He quickly and suddenly ducked down and out of my sight. Then I saw some movement, but couldn't tell what it was. Looking back, I believe that it was the man crawling over the seats. Maybe 10 seconds later, as I still stood there, the SUV suddenly started to move. It went in reverse and was quickly backing up straight towards me. When I realized this, I had to quickly move back and up onto the sidewalk. The SUV continued to go in reverse, and I moved back right up against the building. Then I heard the squealing skid marks, and the SUV came to a stop just feet away from me. I really thought that I was going to get run over, and the guy was going to back into the building, but he didn't. When he stopped, he then very quickly drove off, moving forward and screeching his tires in the process. He left the gas station and went back onto the road and then went out of sight. I was really in shock of what had happened, and I couldn't believe it. The guy tried to run me over. I went back inside and was just hoping that he wouldn't return. Luckily, he didn't. After that, I put in my notice to quit. That whole experience was so bizarre. I have no idea what the guy was doing staring at me for so long, and then seemingly trying to run me over. This is something that happened when I was staying in a hotel a few years ago. I was on a trip with my best friend Emily, and this was on the second night that we were there. We were staying a little ways outside of the city because it was cheaper. The area where we were staying seemed pretty nice though. Late at night, we were going to go to the gas station to get some snacks, but Emily's boyfriend called her on the phone, and they started talking for a while, so I went on my own. The area around the hotel was basically a couple of other businesses that were now closed. Then there was a gas station that was open. I left the hotel and went down the sidewalk to walk there. It took me maybe 5 minutes, and nobody else was outside. When I got into the gas station, there was actually a lot of people in there, probably about 10, and the store was a little bit larger than most. There was a huge selection of snacks and drinks, and I was inside for maybe 5 to 10 minutes. I picked out a number of items and then checked out and left. When I was inside of the store, I didn't really notice anything strange happening or anybody seeming suspicious. I do recall though, right after I left, I heard the door open and somebody leaving behind me. I didn't think much of it obviously, but when I left the parking lot and was back on the sidewalk, the person followed. I sort of looked behind me and saw that there was a man walking a ways back. He was wearing a gray sweatshirt and a winter hat. He followed me on the sidewalk, and we both walked back in the direction of the hotel. This road that I was walking alongside was kind of a back road and very quiet. There wasn't really a big reason to walk down it right now, other than to probably go back to the hotel. So when the man continued to walk behind me, I hoped that he was also staying at the hotel. I couldn't help but feel a little bit nervous though. Soon, I made it all the way back to the hotel parking lot. The man was the same distance behind me and still there. I walked into the lobby of the hotel, and the man followed me in. Then, I walked to the stairs because I didn't want to be in the elevator with the guy. I figured that if he really did stay here, then he would take the elevator like most people. But no, he followed me to the stairs. After I got into the stairwell, I let the door close. Within a second after it shut, I heard it opening. I knew the man was going to follow me up. I walked up the stairs to where our room was, on the 3rd floor. When I was walking up the stairs, I texted Emily to come to the room door and open it. Luckily, she saw my text within seconds and said that she would. I got to our floor and once again closed the door to the stairwell behind me. I was about 20 feet down the hallway when I heard it opening. I couldn't believe that the man was still following me. Our room was a ways down, so I kept walking, but I walked much faster now. I could hear the footsteps behind me approaching fast, and he was gaining on me, but I didn't look behind. Soon, I saw our door open slightly because Emily was holding it. At that point, I walked even faster and got to the door. I quickly went inside and slammed the door shut behind me. It automatically locked, but I put the other old-fashioned lock on it as well. I then looked through the peephole and saw the man walk right up to the door. Then he kind of walked away slowly, only to return a few seconds later. When he did, he knocked on the door. I certainly was not going to answer it. I moved away from the door. Emily didn't really know what was going on and was very confused. The man knocked on the door one more time about a minute later. Then, finally, he walked away. I told Emily the story of what happened. I'm really glad that she was able to hold the door open for me. If not, I would have had to unlock the door myself with the key, which would have probably slowed me down 5 to 10 seconds at least. The man may have been able to close in on me. I don't know who the guy was or why he followed me, but I really don't think he was actually staying in our hotel. I used to work at a gas station. I only worked there for about a month, but still had a scary experience. When I worked there, it was mostly at night. One time I was working by myself, but it really wasn't that late yet. I think it was maybe about 10 o'clock at night. Customers were coming in here and there, pretty steady up to that point. But at about 10 o'clock is when things really started to quiet down. So I was just standing there behind the counter, and the last customer left. For the next hour or so, things were very quiet. I think we got just 2 or 3 people inside, and just a few more get gas. Then the store was completely empty. Things became very quiet, and I became very bored. When this happened, I would usually just go on my phone. There was nothing that really needed to be done at that time. Maybe 10 minutes went by, but I suddenly heard a noise. It was coming from the back end of the store, a part that I couldn't see. Now the store wasn't that big, and had maybe 5 aisles total, but there were areas out of my vision still. It was startling because I was 100% sure that nobody was in there. I got up from where I was to look, but I was really pretty nervous. Then I heard another noise. I asked if anybody was there, but I got no response. I started walking down one of the aisles towards where the noise was. I really wanted to just turn around and leave it alone though. Once I made it to where I had heard the noise, I still saw nothing. But just seconds later, as I was still kind of looking around, I heard another noise now in the next aisle over. I looked, and then saw a man appear from around the corner. I have no idea where he came from or where he had been. He had longer hair and a longer beard as well. The man walked right up to me and reached out his hand. I could tell he was holding something but didn't know what. I had no clue what he was doing until I felt a shock and fell to the ground. The man tased me. I was down, and he then stepped over me, and I saw him grab some random items off the shelf. He then yelled some random sentence that I didn't hear very well. I just remember hearing a couple of curse words. After that, he left. I was still on the ground for like a minute and then finally got up. Then I called the police. I reported the guy, and the cops showed up a while later, but the man was long gone. We looked at security footage, and the guy literally hid around behind one of the aisles for over an hour. I have no idea what he was doing. I just know that after that, I quit.